So, Luis, we are in live. We wait Maçanita, and today Luis and Antonio speak with each other.
Right.
Antonio is here.
No, Antonio is not here. Antonio is there.
Antonio is there.
They get drunk with each other.
Antonio is fast like always. He's not perfect. Antonio, hello.
Estás com o bom aspecto, pá.
Não, não estou.
No,
Dá
English.
para fazer mais.
In English. So, friend.
I leave you here. I will be sitting with Natalia and drinking, so you speak.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Antonio, how are you?
How are you? Good?
I'm very impressed with your vineyards in Évora, and as soon as possible, I have to visit your vineyards.
Yes.
A lot of work, and you're cutting a lot of grass. That's good.
And I'm very impressed with the amount of wine you've been drinking.
Well, a little bit.
So how are we going to do this?
Well, you ruled. You're much better than me, so just choose whatever you want to know. I just have a small little wine here. Nothing special to
Fantastic.
drink. I drink your wines too fast, so that's the last one. I don't have anything else. I'm sorry.
Don't tell me it's the same bottle from the last month.
No, it's the one that I have for 3 years. No, cannot be. It's 18 bottle already. Cannot be. Sorry.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
So I think one of the I think would be cool is it's most of the conversations we've had in more normally end of the day of work, close to in a bar.
A bit too drunk.
and point of view. I think one cool aspect. I think one of the even if I had all these conversations with you, I would say that I was very impressed, and I after saw it, heard it the second time. I'll drink to that interview because it's not a lot of times you have the opportunity to see 1 hour and a half someone talking. Yeah. And I would say that so I think to start comfortably the hostilities. It's I think what I'm more impressed of as an opposition to me is it would be your clarity of where you want to go. So I would say this was what was more impressing for me it was more I really would like you to kind of explore that, how
Okay.
did you get so clear on what was the path you wanted to do for your wines? So this is
Antonio, let's just make a question in between. What is your age?
40.
40. I thought it was 8 years difference.
And so you're 48?
I'm 48.
I wouldn't give you more than 49.
Can we stop this for now? Just finish now or no? No, I don't know, Antonio. I would make the same question to you. What have you changed in your wines in the past? And I'm not telling you in the past 10 years. I know your wines from 10 years. What did you change in the last 3 or 4 years? I think it's the moment when you relax, set back, less pressure
Mm-hmm. Yep.
to sell it to everything, and that makes you decide to do something. And you can have more or less pressure, but in the end, is the pressure you have to do it, to sell it, whatever, and you achieve a certain age, and come on, you have to know what you want to do. If you're not doing big quantities,
You have a cheese from Azores.
you have cheese from Açores. Do you know the place?
It's okay. It's St. George or Ilha?
I don't have any pico.
Ilha.
I don't have any pico cheese, so I cannot do anything.
But I would go. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And
when you get that stability, and I've seen the change in the wines you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really when you set back and start thinking and doing less.
Now, what you've decided was not to taste some of my other wines.
Yeah, well, I'm very smart.
Because they coexist. But I agree. Meaning, but when you maybe that's not. I agree with in the sense of evolution. But I think I have wines that contradict themselves, meaning that I have styles of wines that are opposite to each other,
And that's not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
You just have a portfolio that is very big where everyone fits, and I have a small portfolio. It's a smaller amount that it's more difficult to have so much of the different extremes. I think if you're doing a smaller amount in a certain stage in your life, I think you are able to decide, okay, I'm going that way. I'm taking my risk in the small scale, so the risk is, the fall is not that big, and I do whatever I want. And it's a little bit what it is. But in your case, I've seen the changes. I've seen the changes in the last few years, and I think you don't have the same reading of the wines that you had 5 years ago.
You don't have that?
You don't have the same reading of the wines that you had 5 or 10 years ago.
You're paying attention.
The first time
now.
you met me at Newport, you see the things in a totally different way. And for me, in a better way.
Yeah.
I think you're just more released, older, more relaxed, and you see things in a totally different perspective.
Mm-hmm. So let's go from scratch.
Okay.
So what is Douro?
Okay. It's 45,000 hectares of vineyards in between 80 and 800 meters altitude. It's 180 different varieties of grapes, totally different story. It's many different stories that people don't understand. Douro is the extreme. It's very warm climate that can also have very cold climate that people don't know and don't understand. It's extremes of almost no water or splashing rain. It's extremes of everything. Douro, it's all the extremes. And the social character of the Douro too. And that makes a big difference.
And did you pick one Douro?
What?
Did you pick? You have a version of Douro?
No, there are several versions of. I have several, and there are many more. There are so many versions of Douro. You know that already, but there are
it's
different versions, and there are versions that we still don't know. There are still versions to discover. Douro is such a big area that. And with so many different possibilities that we're just starting, we are just on the top of the iceberg. There's so many different things we can do. We just don't know because Douro was built by the big port houses. So all the history of the Douro.
But I want to bring a different answer from you.
Okay, so what the answer you want from me?
No, because what I would say is that you have and you have a vision for wines, and I think that's I positive because I like this is the argument that I love with you. I think you have a preference for a part of Douro.
Yes.
You have, and I think one really cool thing that you've always said, I want to do the wines that I want to drink. So this is this logic.
That's a privilege. Not many people can do that.
No, but how does it conflict or not with the interpretation of Douro?
I will answer in a different way. When I was younger, I was absolutely sure of everything. And I would criticize everyone else that was doing different than me or thinking differently than me. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, I'm not. Because many of the styles of the Douro that were done years ago opened the doors for me to be selling today. Mm-hmm. So whatever criticizing is the same thing that anyone criticizing my wines. You have different people drinking totally different style of wines. So we really cannot criticize a certain style of the Douro that already developed a lot to the other perspective.
Yeah. Open the door to a,
when you
an idea of Douro. An idea of Douro.
Exactly. When you're young, everything is black and white. When you get older, you have many shades of gray in between. You know, and that's the thing. There's so many possibilities. And how can I criticize a certain style that eventually I like less to drink, but you have a lot of consumers that want to drink? Why should we complain with that? Why we should protest with that?
Yeah.
It's a different approach. So now I'm open to whoever present a different style of wine to explain me why, how. I'm open to taste and to try to understand. And I think that only...
Just this night or in general?
No, tonight because I drink a little bit. You know that if I'm only with you, with no one else seeing us, I would not be exactly the same. You know?
Good. And if we had to, I think this is something cool for everyone. Is if you had to put Douro in drawers.
Yeah.
And so let's say break it down either in styles or in areas or in types of vineyards. How would you break it down? How do you break down Douro? We know it's very complex, so it's almost impossible to do it.
I will start to, blind tasting is very interesting because I will start to divide warm climate, cold climate. So that is a warm climate. Although you can have cold wines from the warm climate, starting the tasting. Then Douro have two things that you cannot run away from it. Always have a lot of tannins, always have a lot of fruit, the grapes. And then with the grapes you receive, you do what you want. You can extract more, you can extract less, you can want more concentration, you can want less concentration, but everything that arrives to the winery, even in a cold, rainy year, it's too much of everything. Douro, it's too much. It's what many people call surplus of nature, but it's not only of nature, it's also of all the ingredients. The tomatoes in the harvest, if you're there, taste amazingly. Maybe too much concentrate, maybe too sweet. The fruit can be too much. Everything can be too much. The figs during the harvest, when you're just tasting the grapes, are just too sweet. Everything is too much. That's the Douro. And in my case, but I shouldn't be the center of the attention. I should ask you, but in my case, you need to push everything down, push everything back because you have too much.
Okay.
And I think Douro is that. Douro is a surplus. You've been there in Douro. You arrive and anyone in the world arriving is speechless. You see the valleys, everything, and everything is big, amazing. It's just too much. You cannot put all of that in the bottle. You have to refrain. You have to get the elegance on that. And I think that's, at least in my case, what I'm trying to do. Less.
But less by going in altitude, less by north slopes, less by
going in altitude, cold areas, harvesting earlier, extract less, never do batonnage on the whites, never extract too much on the reds, in all of that. If you are in the different areas, we always discuss, many people discuss batonnage on the whites. If you are in the cold area, come on, if you have a cold year in Chablis, I may understand batonnage. In the Douro, cold year, warm year, it's too much anyway.
Let's do it. Let's speak batonnage. So how do you work with batonnage?
No, batonnage. I'm talking about specific techniques. Could be batonnage.
Let's. Why not?
Some powers punching down, whatever.
Let's jump to whites. Why not? So you're saying that warm climates, because they have enough richness, no point for batonnage.
I think anywhere in Portugal, including the coldest places in Portugal. Eventually, actually, I was discussed this. Yesterday, Nuno Duarte from Barbeito visited me.
You have Jonathan saying "sexy Luis." I think he looks good. He's looking good. He's looking good. For someone with 48 years, he's looking good.
And I was discussing that thing in Madeira. Eventually, in all Portugal, I don't know why. Maybe you can tell because you know a little bit more about the age of the soils. When I taste Madeira compared with even with Açores, Madeira always seems to be shorter and a little bit more acid and a little bit more diluted. So everywhere in Portugal, any place that theoretically, if we speak about batonnage, I would use in Madeira, and not necessarily in Açores. I don't know how you work in Açores, if you use it or not, but in Madeira, I know if the yields are very different from Açores or not. I find this diluted thing in the wines that eventually I don't find that in Açores.
Yeah,
And
I would say
that can give a little bit of full, but the rest of Portugal, I wouldn't use it anywhere.
Yeah. Now, also the point Madeira Azores is, I think, what really sets them apart. Besides soils, we'll get to that because Madeira is much older geologically than Pico, so much older. So it means that the soils are richer, more degraded, and there's more soil, there's more vigor, so to speak. So, but the main point I would say is the theme of ripeness, meaning that for you to retain acidity, it's the way to do Madeira wine. So if to retain acidity, you need to be harvesting 10, 11. In Azores, you harvest 12.5, 13, and you're at 10, 12 of total acidity. So it's this mix of ripe fruit with high acid.
But you need to harvest later in Açores and in Madeira?
Of course, because in Madeira, what's controlling, well, this is also, I've never made wine in Madeira, but this is conversations with Ricardo. They are harvesting in 10s, 11s of alcohol to retain acidity. And we don't need that, meaning that for two reasons. I think we are in a cool to warm climate, cool to moderate climate in Azores. The grapes, the three grapes, Verdelho, Arinto, and Terrantes, are the only that is common is Verdelho. And so I would say that you can barely ripe these grapes in Azores. And so they are in the limit, they're using the full cycle, of ripeness. Okay. So a fruit, you're tasting tasty fruit, not the challenge that I need to do in Alentejo or Douro to harvest them almost to retain the acidity. You need to be almost in the edge of the beginning of the fruit. You're out of the appley. I always say of wines from Canada or wines from northern. You have always this sensation that they could be from another fruit.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can feel it in some sparklings.
Early ripe strawberries kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, there's something that is a lot of times, and so you get the full ripeness of the fruit, but with a lot of high acid. But I would agree with you. So I worked for a long time with batonnage in 2 or 3 wines. As a rule of thumb, meaning more learning a technique and repeating it, I also agree that mostly in warm climates, it tends to speed the aging of the wine. So it tends to kind of show the whiskey side of wines too early. Today, I use it as an antioxidant. So every time I touch the wine, instead of correcting it with sulfur, what I'm going to do is any time that I will open the bung, I will put the lees in suspension. And so the objective is to bite everything, all the oxygen that might come in.
And don't you think the wines get a little bit more fat because of that? In the end. Because I've done experiments of same wine, a few months, batonnage on this barrel, not batonnage on this one. And by the end of the cycle, in the beginning, the one that we've done batonnage, you always feel fresher, more approachable.
In reality, if you think, I agree, but if you think when you're correcting your barrel or when you're filling it up, that action is already occurring. So
every time you open the barrel, you're oxidizing it, even to the opera.
Yeah,
every time.
So what I would say is that for me not to be always trying to correct a problem. So I open it, there's oxygen coming in, it's fixed, it's going to grab my free sulfur and take it to total. Instead of having to recorrect, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lees in suspension.
Okay, so
And
we shouldn't be very boring in technical stuff, but do you take the wine out of the skins after fermentation, or they always kept?
you're talking about whites or reds?
Whites. We're talking about
Whites.
white batonnage.
Okay, sorry. If I never take it out of the lees through the entire cycle.
Okay.
So,
and you still feel the need of lifting up the lees while it's aging, whenever you open or whenever you do some act that.
well, we can do
the
the conversation the other way around. So when I'm bottling my white, it's generally between 50 and 70 total of sulfur.
15.
50, 50.
50, 70 total. Okay, yeah, okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
I work with the same values, even
so
more or less like that.
So the idea,
total.
so no, so the idea is to carry the wine. So agings of 1 year. So let's say normal for Palpite, indigenous for some of these wines, and in aesthetic lees, I call it. Although I'm going to move them, I'm not saying in tank. I'm saying in barrel. I'm going to move them anytime that I open, but I'm not going to force lee steering just for the fact of lee steering.
Okay. Just because you need something to protect from. Okay.
Yeah. And you see, for me, there is and also I open wines only for analysis, so I'm not topping. I fill it. I boom, I close it. It's going to be hammered. Either if I'm taking samples or analysis, this is when I open them. I'm not topping.
I have to tell something that everyone is seeing us. That can be a very boring technical conversation. If I start just talking,
A lot of people are saying
I sold oxygen on the wine, everyone will fall asleep.
No, everyone's saying, please be boring.
No, everyone, we will be talking a lot. So without going more on that, because there's a lot of, we could have just 2 hours on that subject. They sold oxygen on the wine.
No, but I think this is very interesting, Luis, because and this is really open discussion is, what's the oldest white from Douro that you've had that it was decent? We can't be
That's
talking
a very good
port.
question. Well, actually,
you can't be talking port.
I had the early, actually the earliest whites were the Redomo whites deport, done more or less the same way, working in barrels, and I think they start batonnage, then they stop batonnage quite quickly. The best one I had was in the Douro Valley, but not the Douro, was in the Vinho Verde part near the Douro Valley. Once I had by accident, and we've done a lot of investigation to discover the wine, was a 40s or 30s Borges, but from the Vinho Verde area, Avesso, just facing the river. And that wine was wow, and was still good and was impressive.
So
I tell
from
you,
the 40s, let's grab this. And then from Newport, I had the 96.
Early 90s, 94, 95. I don't remember well. But
I think I had a 96 that is now out. That is
very
good shape. It's impressive shape.
You have a few that are not in good shape. You have others that are in good shape.
But the question
is
so.
History about white wine.
No, but wait. Just grab this moment. Why some are in good shape and some are not? What's your intuition on it?
It's simple. You have a few areas in Douro that can make white wines. I would name it 3, and that's it. Because of the soil, because of the ability to have acidity, and those are wine able to age. And in the case what I've done, it's Meda, and you are limiting Beira, and they are very similar. And you also able, but you only have a few parcels, a few areas in Douro able to do good white wines. Everything else, we're just trying the impossible, and that's the thing. It's much easier to make a good red.
You think for you think it's just a thing of ripeness. That's it.
No, it's not ripeness. It's also the place.
Okay.
It's mica slate soil, high altitude vineyards, and it's not us deciding that. If you travel around Douro, you can see where you have the majority of white wine vineyards, even after of, I don't know, the 80s, the 80s, the 90s, where people didn't want any white wines, and people repented with the reds. But even after that, you can easily see where was the biggest amount of white wine planted, and those are the best white wine areas. And I don't know about you, it was not me discovering that, someone else discovered before me. I
have never planted, so the grapes that I'm using, they are not exactly there. So I'm in Poiares. There is an exception on the territory, so it's a.
I have difficulty with that. You know, I have difficulty with Poiares because of the soil.
I was speaking with a geologist
because my winery. I know my winery is really near Poiares.
Yeah.
And I don't know if those white wines were there because they were always there, or because they had a late ripening for the reds and thought, oh, why not planting whites? So I don't know that area in terms of whites at all. So I really cannot discuss that. What I know is traditionally old white wine areas, they were all over, and they always become with the same style of soil, mica slate soil, that you don't have in Poiares.
No.
And I work with Mushagat, with a Riesling in the blue slate soil. Okay, the Riesling can be interesting, but the other whites, maybe not. So it's really very interesting.
Let's so your forecast, like if I'm going to drink Xisto Branco in 30 years. So I'm saying 30 because that's it 25.
Give it 50 easily, don't worry.
That's confidence. And so where I was going, because I think this is very important, sulfur levels, lees or no lees contact. And also, so for me, you have a hard time finding a white from Douro with more than 15 years that it's still standing.
Very, very difficult.
Still standing.
Douro is not known for whites.
Yeah. So same goes for Alentejo. Not the same for Bairrada, maybe for a time, but Bairrada
down where you can find the oldest.
A lot of them. And if you go out of Portugal, but let's say every white wine that is fortified can last. So
okay, yeah, sweetness,
enough.
alcohol,
but
sugar,
Madeira,
alcohol,
they can last forever.
Yeah,
Townies, they can last forever. Even white port, they can last forever. Jerez, it can last forever. Late harvest wines, they can last forever.
Don't agree with that. Sorry.
No. So you've had more with the 20 years something that is not holding, or 30 years something that is not holding.
It's not the same balance. Maybe too much sugar, but I don't believe that all the late harvest or even they cannot live forever.
But okay,
they are supported on the sugar.
But let's say that it can last more.
Exactly, because of the sugar. Sugar is supporting the wine, but not necessarily. It's not like
or the botrytis. But I don't know.
But I don't think botrytis can hold the wine. It can help a little bit of the tannins, but botrytis, I don't think it can hold the wine. Well, at least it's my opinion. I think if you have sugar, acidity can hold the wine, mostly. Everything else is just adding complexity.
So from all those techniques, and this is for me would be, my daughter is 5, the other one is 3. It would be very sad that when they're about my age, nothing is drinkable from my side. It would be.
You're not here.
It would be. No, it would be really completely failed as a producer and a winemaker. So the challenge is what are within these techniques between a little bit of flor.
Yeah.
The covering of the flor is.
The flor influence the wine in a direction. You have a specific style.
But it dries out the sugar.
Okay, wait, let's stop that. We're going to take a few hours here. And how many hours have I had here? So, imagine you are in Alentejo. What are the oldest wines you drank that really impress you?
Whites?
Whites? The oldest reds, not whites.
that were standing.
That
So we
were,
have,
that you
yeah,
really, they were great.
Dona Maria, I think from 1980s, 1987, I think, something like that. Sorry, Quinta do Carmo.
Okay, okay.
And from 85, it was a blind tasting with Petrus.
Okay.
And it stands tall. It stands tall. It was
Okay,
impressive.
so have you ever drunk Mouchon 54?
No.
I've had it with all the top Bordeaux Grand Crus. Mouchon was the best. Have you ever had Rosado Fernandes from the 40s?
Nope.
Still today, I can put on my knees for that wine.
But you say Rosado Fernandes is Alentejo?
Well, could be a blend with something else.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's not.
No, Rosado Fernandes, in theory, is Alentejo.
Okay.
You know, in those days, people blend different regions. We never know. What in those days were different from today?
Nothing.
What changed? Okay.
1940s. The 1940s. What's planted is very similar. What's planted in Mouchon in 1940s is very similar to what's planted now.
I don't know. What people told me about Mouchon, specifically of Mouchon, was all the wines were based in Trincadeira and Alicante Puché. That was the base. I don't know for sure. Maybe you can tell me. You know more than me. That's what everyone's told me, that in those days the base was Alicante Puché and Trincadeira.
Yeah.
No irrigation, vase pruning, plants protected, not high canopies, and everything makes it. I tell you, those wines were really amazing. And you can come after that. You can drink, early 80s of.
But I think why wine reds I'm not as worried, because I think the same will happen. I think the same the wines that are being produced in Alentejo. I think
aging is different. I don't feel them the same way. It doesn't. I taste many wines blindly. Many people, and we tend to like. It smells this character of Portugal, warmness, coldness, balsamic notes, and we think, oh, this is great. And many times I love the wine too, but we are Portuguese. We are used to this style. We are used to this warmness on the wines because we are in the south. Many people tasting this wine somewhere else will think that the wine is off. It's just our memory that makes us like this specific style. But I taste the older ones that didn't taste like those ones. It's incredible. This freshness, this, I don't know, tartaric acid freshness, whatever. But they were really alive and kicking, and they really impressed me. And the question is, what we need to know is how the hell they make that to be today like this, and what we have to do to have the same thing.
Well, I think for me, just also because I think we are too, let's say, I would say that Douro, just a little bit of a retrospective, because
Douro doesn't have that history. Douro doesn't have that history. Alentejo have more in terms of all the wine. Douro have Barca Velha.
True.
But
let's. I think I like this retrospective because, first on grape varietals, let's put it this: pre-phylloxera, there is no Alicante. So 1820s we have Aragonês da Terra, Trincadeira, Castelão, Moreto,
we cannot taste those wines.
Tinta Fina that they. Sorry.
But we cannot taste those wines.
No. But just a little. So 1870s, we have all this plus there's Negramol, there's Tinta Caiada, there's Tinta Miúda, there's what more, and still no Alicante in the then beginning of the 1900s. Supposedly there's Alicante. I have never found, to be honest, with 50 years, with 70 years, I never saw a vineyard that has Alicante. So maybe Mouchon had it, but
Okay.
I don't see it. I've seen some
Okay,
Granois.
so exactly what you say. Go back to Tinta Caiada, Tinta Miúda. We know the style of those grapes, varieties. It's a different style of the Alentejo today.
For sure.
Open color, more productive, higher acidity. They were a little bit different than the
Well,
wine
if you see,
today.
just because I think we need to get the entire problem. So, and that's why we're speaking about Porto. Porto was using spirits, right? So it was using spirits to make them travel, but all the regions were using them. So even Alentejo, the reporting's from 1860. So this is Ferreira Lapa. 1.5 to 2% of the alcohol is given by aguardente.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we want to get back to that way of winemaking, but
no. But the question is, was that to all the wines, of only the wines that were going to travel and people locally would?
No. This is
in general.
Alentejo was never a region to do that type of. It was drank locally or in Lisbon. So in general, this is the cadastro something of Portugal that is Antonio Augusto Aguiar does the north and Ferreira Lapa does the south, and he goes winery to winery, going searching, and I think what we've solved in this last 50 years, if it's 40 years, is that we're not using spirits anymore. So that's pretty good. that's
okay.
Not bad.
It's a bit of improvement.
And it's not just us. So the same problem, the clarets of Bordeaux, just because I think it's very interesting regarding to Porto. Everyone was trying to mimic Porto.
Yes,
Porto was making money.
Exactly. That's why,
everyone was trying to make it dark,
everything, so everyone wants to do a sweet wine.
Yeah.
And
Ripe, but think of this. Ripe. It's more than sweet. It's ripe wine.
Ripe
wine.
That's
and
not
so,
a proper red
if we
wine.
grab André Julien, so this is 1822. Now 1816. He says that the best wines from Bordeaux, they take wine from Alicante and Benicarlo, from the south of Spain. They take one bottle of sweet unfermented must and a bottle of spirit. They are aged 4 years, and they're more expensive than claret.
But we can understand that when you didn't have the ripeness, you have a lot of rain. Viticulture was different. Everything was less efficient. You harvest with 10% alcohol, and eventually, if you add a bit of brandy, a bit of sugar, a bit of everything, the wine is going to be better. We're not in the same stage today, and we understand that. If you see along the previous cycle, the evolution was everyone was fighting to have more ripeness. Was normal. We came from
from the problem was lack of ripeness.
From lack of ripeness, too much greenness,
excessive production,
a lot of tannins, a lot of tannins, but it was good because that will preserve the wine, not the alcohol, but the tannins and the acidity, and the wines will not drink when they were young, but they would be drunk 10 or 20 years later. So that helped. But then we came maybe a little bit too far and too efficient. I was visiting a very famous place in Burgundy, tasting a lot of wines that were dark, concentrated in an area in Burgundy that was supposed to be light. And after so many...
But just for this, interrupt you, because historically what makes Burgundy great is it because it had alcohol. So
I tasted Burgundies from the 40s. They all taste like Syrah. And all the French say, that was Hermitage. It was normal. After the wine was bought in Rhone, south of Rhone, to blend it.
No, but this guy, the same guy, André Julien, says that it's the crop of from the 1800s, I don't know which dates. The average alcohol was 14.5, 15, and if you think it is a region where Pinot in warmer years can have level of alcohol that think of Bordeaux that was at 9.5, 10% of alcohol.
Yeah.
And you had a region that could reach 14. It's
it was normal. Bordeaux, Burgundy goes south. France or or Morocco or Portugal or Spain to buy wines with alcohol and concentration just to blend it. And I tell you, I tasted wines from the 40s.
They needed a little bit of
They
Portuguese
all
on them.
Huh?
They needed a little bit of Portuguese on them.
Yeah, no, Portuguese for sure. And they all taste like, Syrah or something else that is not Pinot. But then everyone tried to be better. And today, what I think today, we are just too efficient. I think everyone is talking about the global warming, but much more than global warming, it's the viticulture that changed so much. Alentejo, years ago, didn't have the same size of canopy that it has today. It didn't.
But for me, so Alentejo, if I had,
I'm talking about Alentejo because Alentejo.
no, but I think it's good. If I have I think it's the same problem as Douro. Is
the
from
same
a group.
For me, the Douro vineyards that I prefer are the traditional ones, not necessarily because of the age, also not because of the age, but because the traditional ones have lower canopy and more density per hectare, just because of that.
I let's say I agree to say that the biggest problem with warm regions is heat spells. And big canopies normally are not sustained by the root system that they have. So it's too much of a big canopy, I agree. But I think the biggest issue is the grandmother's recipe, so to speak. What happened was that in the old vines, you find a composition of fruit, a composition of grapes, that someone decided to arrive and say, well, from that composition of 20 grapes, let's grab Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca, Tinto Cão, just to say, and Tinta Amarela. Let's grab this 5 and let's start using this, and then more and more just Touriga Nacional and I think the shift of styles of Douro, the same goes for Alentejo, is from all the grapes available. Let's forget Castelão, let's forget Moreto, let's forget Tinta Carvalho, let's forget Tinta Miúda. Let's just stay with Alicante. Why? Because it gives color. Let's stay with Aragonês. Why? Because it's productive. Let's stay with Trincadeira. Yes, because it can easily ripen. And so these 3 grapes dominate. Not to speak about Syrah and Cabernet. So
okay, no, I'm not speaking about that. But okay, defending the devil. You also have to think on the lower. In some of the people that plant the old vineyards, they really thought about the varieties, put it in. Many of them, they just took everything around them and just replanted. So in many cases, the blend, you could eliminate 30% of the blend that was not interesting. And it's not only that, it's like we cannot, everything was perfect and not everything
no. And I think,
perfect.
Yeah,
because
perfect.
Everyone done mistakes on the way, and we're still doing our mistakes on the way.
Yeah. I think when you worked close to the port industry that I never did, but one thing that I felt very touched with both Madeira and Sherry was this idea of that every generation has to play a role. So and so it's not looking at what was done and saying, this was the way it was done, let's just do the same. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the level of ripeness is related to 2 things. Selecting the grapes that provide more ripeness, number 1, and more this style of wine. Second, there was a huge focus on all the researchers and the pépinière, how do you say, the vineyard growers, how do you say, viveiros, plant growers. Pépinière.
Whatever.
Okay. breeders, to improve, so to speak, to select the varieties, the phenotypes that now call clones that would produce more alcohol and more color. So this was what people were
because they didn't have enough, and now we have it too much. But
it's fine. Yeah. But so just going back to what you were saying about Mochão, I think the challenge of reds, I think for Alentejo, I think the wines that Alentejo that exist today, the ones that I consider the high ends, they will last the same. This is my opinion. So, could they be? Can they evolve? I think so. I think we need much more Castelão, much more Tinta Carvalho, much more of these grapes within,
Okay.
and no grapes of short cycle. So
But are they being done like that today to be lasting in for us to have the same discussion in 30 years?
I don't
The
think
majority of the wines.
no.
I'm not saying one or the other. The majority
No.
of them are one with that blend.
Just out of curiosity as well, is that the old place of planting grapes, not just a theme of, I am 90% not irrigated vineyards in Alentejo, just for a mindset. But for that,
You're just missing 10%.
yes. No, because the 10% are in places where they need to be. So the new
Okay,
the place,
and those places had vineyards. Oh, exactly. Those places had vineyards 50 years ago.
no.
Okay.
So the 50, yes, but if you go back, because 50 irrigation existed already. So the thing is, the revolution of irrigation takes vineyards into other territories, but the old vineyards, they are where the water is between 3 and 5 meters. So it's very interesting because think of the cities, they are where there's more water. Then the first circle is where you can do your tomatoes, your potatoes.
Of
The
course,
second circle is where you can do vineyards. So the water is already, it's not close to the vineyards, it's further, but it's cold soil. And then it's breadland. Then you do cereals.
All the cereals.
They recycle with the, and what happened is that most of those areas have been built with houses. but these circles, they exist in some places where they're granite based, so they are degradations of granite.
Yeah.
They're cybrus, so
Yeah.
they're pretty, let's
Or
say.
in terms of organic matter, difficult to hold water a little bit more.
Yeah, but the unweathered rock maintains the water underneath.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have a pool. You
Yeah.
have the soil, but it cannot penetrate. So it stays like a pool underneath of the soils. And curiously enough, Mochão is in one of those places.
Well, let me stop here. How would you describe the different soils in Alentejo and how those soils will influence differently the style of the wines?
Yeah. So you have some soils similar to Douro. So you have on
A bit.
you have in Serra Doce, Borba, Reguengos, some schist not so weathered as Douro. So meaning they're not so fragmented, so dusty. So those areas have been elected as prime area for big reds, so to speak. They give rich, textured. So one of those vineyards that I'm talking about, actually.
How would you describe those wines in schist? Do you know what kind of schist it is?
Yellow schist.
It breaks easily or not?
Yeah. It's. I'd say actually I had a last week geologist here, and it's kind of the same time frame. So what he says is that the schist of Douro is one of the oldest. It's one of the oldest soil parts of Portugal.
Yeah.
So that's why it's loams from the bottom of the ocean that have been compressed up. So
you're meaning Douro it's older than Alentejo schist?
Much older.
Okay.
Yeah. So well, I don't have the base to say that. It's older than. It's one. What he told me is that the valley is the oldest part of soils of Portugal, and Alentejo is almost all pretty young. So it's just it's almost based on granites. There's some calcareous, but there's some areas where we can see that bottom when the continents collided, the base comes to the top, and in some edges of the mountains you can see the soils.
Okay, so do you have vineyards in all the soils, calcareous, granite,
Yeah,
and schist?
yeah. Calcareous, no. Calcareous, no.
Calcareous, no.
No.
Get one. Get one.
So they say.
So what is the difference between the granite and the schist?
So difference. I would say that schist is always what I was looking for before. So I would say that there is a certain consistency of production. So the amazingness of schist.
Sorry to interrupt. Don't you think you give it a little bit more roundness and a little bit more layers?
Of course.
Compared with the granite?
Well,
Yes.
amplitude for sure.
Yeah,
So
compared with the granite.
Granite is a basic soil, so it's not a very complex soil.
Yeah.
It's if you from a mineral point of view, it's very young and it's very there's not a lot of things on it. A schist soil, it's very complex. There's a lot of minerals on it. Also, the water retention capacity of a schist is very interesting. So we're missing one, that it's granite based, but it's clay based. So argilo-calcareous that are
But that's
that
not
also
interesting,
exist.
because the clay, so if it is even if it is granite, but with a clay base, how
It's a
this
completely different thing.
affects what does give a difference to the wine?
Yeah, yeah. It's again, it's again an issue of canopy, because for me, schist, they are dosers. They are not going to give, the heat comes and they don't give everything away. They are giving, so the canopy grows to the size it needs to grow. Well, you might trim in wetter years and less on others, but it's more balanced on the way that the soil is dosing water. And also on preserving water for the season.
Yeah.
Argilo-calcareous, the problem is you get like Aragonese leaves like this.
Yeah.
And to be completely honest, I have seen vineyards that Quinta do Moro is one of them. You go into the vineyard and you say, I cannot believe that this does Quinta do Moro. It's like a leaf this big. So it's because you have this big growth,
Yeah.
but then you also have the soil compacting.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever it gets dry, everyone starts suffering.
Yeah. What is my let's say my intuition? If I was advising someone, so if I was not doing my own wines with my own risk, I think schists are very consistent. If you have schists with the irrigation, for sure you get that archetype of a Douro red or a Alentejo red, big, voluptuous, concentrated. You can do that easy with this type of soils. I think granites are more challenging, but I think it's in my opinion, it will be the place where we'll have a root system adequate to the type of weather that we have. So meaning, why? Because of this idea of this is where you have the water. So this is where you have the water flowing between let's say 3 and 10 meters.
Okay.
It's not just the type of soil, it's the type of soil draws a type of waterbed.
Okay.
So meaning all the old names, Peramanca is a little stream, Enxarrama is a little stream, Silveira.
Granite soil, the surface of the water is near the
because what happens is, well, not all granite soils is, meaning you need to have water to start. So where does it come from? So it needs to come either because you have a little stream or you have rain, and so it's piled up throughout years. So you have, imagine you have a soil like this. Yeah. This is weathered, but this is rock.
Okay.
So what you have
more to the surface.
Yeah, and then you have breaches.
Okay.
And so what happens is you have this huge reservoirs of water. But imagine, to give you an idea, I have a vineyard that is in the base of Serra d'Ossa, and water is always between 3 and 5 meters. It's shown with meters. If you go to another vineyard that I have, that is Caraveira, the water is at 120 meters. So this
cannot get there.
No. So what do you have? The taste that we say, this is my opinion, my intuition, the taste of the bad aging of wines is raisins or golf balls. Yeah, every year I do a full tank of everything that I've selected, I've put out, and it tastes like New World.
Yeah.
No, but it tastes like what we heard to talk about ripeness, but it's not ripeness. It's the moment the berry starts slightly shrinking.
Shrinking.
Go for it.
Okay. Okay. Shrinking. For me, though, it's shrinking. It's scary. Okay. Talk about this. That it's already empty. It's not me drinking. Those two that are here with me, they finished the bottle. We're going. First.
But question. Let's for Gio. Are we going up again? No.
No, Jew. Forget Jew. It's just
doing
just
something
drinking. It's not saying live Jew or not. Don't worry. Jew is just enjoying your wine. I have one specific.
We're going because we need one more bottle of wine.
No, okay. So we'll go for another bottle of wine. One question is this: what I find in your wines that are I think the first wine you made of this tinted blanc, I sent you a message the first time I drank it, saying it was very, very good. You've done something wrong because you cannot do a good wine. And I text you that. But what I find in all those wines, they change very quickly.
Yep.
I don't know if it's because of the way they are aged, because I have problems with my wines. If people don't age it well, of course, they don't live it well. I don't know if do you have an experience of how the wines are going to age?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are that source wines red are not going to age that well?
Not sure. Not sure.
Because after 1, 2, 3 years, they are totally different. They are not the same thing.
Agree.
Is that related to a very young soil?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm tasting this and I know what it is. I saw the label, so I can associate it to volcanic soil. So, but many times I tasted, it's not necessarily volcanic. It tastes like a, red from Galicia, freshness, sea, but not necessarily volcanic. While in Tenerife, for instance, you feel the volcanic soils. That can also be because those are much younger soils than the volcanic soils eventually. So how is going to happen to this wine? Because whenever I taste these wines young, I love, but they change so quickly and they have so many different faces.
A very good question. I don't know. So meaning, no, meaning because I think both Madeira, Açores, and Canary Islands, all the varietals they were whites. So meaning the reds were there to taint the whites, to give a certain color hue, to give them a gold hue.
But were they all fortified in the beginning?
No. Even the perception of fortification is from the mid 17th century. So before we're talking about regions that their names are being spoken since the end of the 14th, 15th. No, sorry, mid 14th century to end of the 17th, the mid 17th century, and there's no fortification yet. So even the perception, these two ideas, sac of dry, and the passados that are the sweets, so to speak. But what's key is that the great wines of the 15th century were the wines of Crete. These wines of Candia, that they were golden hue. Gold was richness. Yeah, and you can go to after and see what Sauternes was doing, what Germany was doing, what Hungary was doing, and the style is a certain yellow eternity. So gold, honey, and wine were the symbols of eternity. Fantastic. The reds were there. Bastardo, it's in the writings. Tinta Negra was there just to give a little drop of, to make it not so white.
But they will be pressed directly too.
Yeah,
so
there would be
done with the whites, pressed directly. Just
put with the whites. I have to assume, of course, because there is no.
We're not there.
But what they say, this is it's a much recent book, but this is 1822. What they say, it's in very little quantity, just to give color to the whites, so there is no true experience or historic with this red's aging. I agree. I think.
Antonio, we have 20 seconds, so let's continue in the next slide. So we are going to speak maybe 20 minutes more, maybe 1 hour more, I don't know. So in 10 seconds we finish and going to move.
He's the boss. I don't know.
Antonio, drink more wine. You're not happy. More wine.
I'm not happy.
It's heavy enough.